go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a former Michigan wide receiver. That does a great job on their sidelines, and that is Jason Avant, kind enough to join us right now on the show. Jason, appreciate the time as always. How you been?
I'm good. How you doing, Zach? It's good to see you, and thank you for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. So let's start off with Mason Graham. I think he is wonderful. He had one of the best individual performances that I saw this past college football season going up against Ohio State. You've been able to watch him the last few years, being on the sideline, you being a Michigan alum as well, and that being your school. Mason Graham, I have him as the third best player in this draft, pound for pound. I think Abdul Carter, I think Travis Hunter are just slightly better. But what's your analysis on Mason Graham?
Well, he's been dominant since he came to the University of Michigan, and he's just a guy with low body. And I love wrestlers from the D tackle position. He's a state champion wrestler. He knows how to grapple, and he wins fast. That's the thing about Mason. He wins with his hands. He wins with power at times, and he was just unblockable the entire year. He left Kenneth Grant with a lot of one-on-ones, and I think that he is just a can't miss player. So Mason Graham is as advertised. I've seen offensive schemes where both guards and centers were on him. He was still able to beat double and triple teams. Mason Graham's an outstanding football player. And if anyone doesn't pick him in the top 5 picks, they're truly crazy.
I think he's going to go number 5 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's where most people have him mocked right now. I'll tell you, if we were talking about Will Johnson this time last year, people would say, for the 2025 draft, he would be a top 5 pick. In most spots, they don't even have him going in the top 10. I think he could go 9th overall to the New Orleans Saints, but I'm reading a mock draft right now, Jason Avant, that on NFL.com that has Will Johnson falling all the way to the 23rd overall selection. I know he was banged up this year, but he's still a phenomenal football player. Are people sleeping on Will Johnson, in your opinion?
Oh, 100%. The thing about Will Johnson is that earlier in the season, he gave up some yards, not touchdowns, gave up some yards to some smaller frame guys. You know, the 5'8" guy that's super quick, but he adjusted pretty well toward the end of the season with those same type of guys. So you saw him give us some yards for the first time in his career. But talking about a guy that believes that he's the best corner, a guy that's long and rangy, and his ball skills are unbelievable. He will step up toe-to-toe, play man-to-man with the best in the country. You saw it against Marvin Harrison. You saw it against a bunch of guys that are first-round talent. Odunze, he didn't care about those guys. Doesn't matter at all. He wants to be right in front of you. And that's what I like from the cornerback position. You have to believe that you're the best player. And Will Johnson walks around like he's the best player. He knows it in his mind. I think that he'll add great value, especially if he's a guy that's going anywhere beyond 15.
Now, I know you wide receivers are very confident, but there are some corners that keep you up late at night. If you were going up against Will Johnson, would he be one of those guys that keep you up late at night trying to figure out how to crack the code on him?
Well, if you're a guy that is 5'11" or taller, he's going to be a very tough dude to get open on. He just is. It's because he has long arms. He understands the system that you're playing in. He studies up. And he's quicker than most guys. Like for a big body guy, he's extremely quick. So yeah, he would give me a nightmare as a receiver. That's not the type of guy that I would want to go. I like the smaller guys that I can push around a little bit.
Jason Avant here with us. Kenneth Grant. So on the championship team 2 years ago, I thought he was very underrated. You saw him get more shine this year, coming on back with how many guys ended up going to the pros following Harbaugh last year. I think this guy could go as early as like the 15th pick in the draft. He takes up a lot of space on the football field. A lot of people have him in the 20s, but you look at Kenneth Grant. What's your evaluation on him, Jason?
You know what? I think Kenneth has great ability. He has a motor. That's the thing about Kenneth. He has a motor. We saw him run down running backs multiple times at the University of Michigan. I'm talking about guys that were out in the open. He was able to chase them down. So he can move for a big fella. He's explosive. But here's the thing about Kenneth Grant. I believe that he's going to fall to a playoff team, and he'll have the chance to affect their future. You talk about a team like Kansas City or the Eagles or Baltimore, one of those teams, they get a chance to get a guy that really is a top 15 talent and get them later in the draft. Because when you talk about quarterbacks mess up the draft every year. You're going to get Jackson Dart, and you're going to get, Shador and Cam Ward and all these guys, McCoy. Somebody's going to reach and go for a quarterback. He's going to push a guy like Kenneth Grant later toward the end of that draft. And I believe he's going to end up with a playoff team and end up making a difference on a playoff team, which is good for him.
At the end of the season, I thought Josaiah Stewart had a chance to be a first-round pick. Anything's still possible. I think he's more likely to go in the second round. He's a player, though, that I can't wait to see what he does in the pros. Coming over from Coastal Carolina, played at Michigan the last few years. I think there's a big upside for him in the league.
Outside of Mason Graham, he was Michigan's, second best player. And that's saying a bunch for that defense. He dominated ball games. You want to know who Josaiah Stewart is? Go watch the USC game. Literally won the game by himself. And there was multiple games where Michigan won the game because of him. You double Mason Graham, and he was the guy that was taking advantage of it every single time. And I think people are going to say, he's a smaller guy. He doesn't weigh that much. But there's a lot of guys that may not be the tallest, but he understands how to rush the passer, has a good bull rush for his size, and he's definitely a great speed rusher that has a spin move. He has an array of moves that's going to translate well. So I'm excited to see where he goes. He's one of those guys that when you look 4 and 5 years down the line, somebody's going to be like, oh, he's a genius for taking him in the second or third round. And Josaiah Stewart is probably my sleeper overall in the draft because I believe that he is a top 15 talent, but is going to go later in the draft, somewhere second, third round.
How about that? Jason Avant with us. I have to ask you this because it came out that you were the guy that got the flag back after the Ohio State-Michigan game where Ohio State, yes, they won the championship, but they acted like a bunch of petulant children as Michigan was just celebrating what was a glorious victory, which I still think was an awesome moment in this football season. Did you keep that flag or did you give it back? Like, what did you do with the flag?
You know what? This is funny. I got the flag back. I took it up the ramp and I waved it in all the Ohio State fans' faces that were up at the top of the top of the stadium. And then I waved it as the Michigan players were coming in, and they went crazy. When they saw the flag, they were crazy. And one of the coaches took the flag from me and said, "We're going to put this up in Schembeckler Hall." But they gave me a game ball, and I have like a flag replica and all that stuff. So it was a good time, man.
Wait, you got a game ball because you got the flag back? Is that right?
Oh, it was crazy. The whole situation was nuts because I'm literally trying to avoid all of that because I'm not a player anymore. I'm trying to go around, and I just see the guy with the flag, and natural football player just came out. So give me that. And yeah, so Coach Moore gave me a game ball for that. And the players have been super, receptive of me being in that role. A lot of asked for advice, and the coaches, tell me to talk to players and stuff. So it's been a great role for me.
You look at the Ohio State players. Will Howard, we'll see when he goes. You got the two running backs that are very successful.
Yeah.
Abuka, he's been around forever. It's almost like that has hurt him here. I think he's going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL.
No, he's a guy that will translate well, especially if someone will put him in the slot, because he has just a great understanding of how to move guys. He understands how to make a guy move out of their spot, sort of like Allen Iverson when they're crossing over. You see this with Justin Jefferson. You see this with Devontae Adams. All the good receivers in the league, Keenan Allen. These guys can make you move, think that they're doing something else. Lad McConkey's great at it. Like, these guys can do that, and Emeka can do that extremely well. So if you can utilize him in that situation where he's in the slot for a really good team that has a quarterback that understands how to utilize him, he's going to be dynamic, and he'll go under the radar because he's so polished. He's playing with Jeremiah Smith, but he can be a guy. He would be a great pairing with a guy like Joe Burrow in the slot. Like a great pairing with him. It'd be amazing. That would be amazing for him to get there.
Yeah, could you imagine, especially with being able to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, if you could trot out those three guys? Jeez Louise.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, he'd be a great pairing. I doubt if it happened, but in that situation, it'd be great.
Well, you look at Jeremiah Smith. I thought the world of Marvin Harrison Jr. A year ago, I said if I had one bet on a player to be in the Hall of Fame from last year's draft class, it was going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. How quickly people have forgotten about Marvin Harrison Jr. and all these great wide receivers at Ohio State with what Jeremiah was able to do in year number one. Man, this dude, the ceiling, I don't even think you could put a limitation on him.
He's a nightmare. The kid's a nightmare. So that's the thing. When calling games, I have to watch film on all the kids. That kid has no weaknesses and was the best player since he has stepped on campus. And the only thing that can limit him and limit them is the offensive coordinator, head coach. That's the only thing that can limit that kid. And you saw that with Ohio State season. When they were reluctant to throw him the ball and they became this run-first offense, they struggled. And now when you give him the ball, you make him the focal point, you win the national championship. And that was the difference between the Michigan game and the playoff series, was that they were trying to be Michigan and run the ball on Michigan, and that didn't work. But if you would have just focused on Jeremiah Smith, I believe the Ohio State probably would have won that game, and probably handily. And so he's a game changer. The size, the quickness, the ability to compete for the ball. And that's the undervalued thing about him, his competitiveness. He wants it and he fights for it and he's hungry. That's something that you don't see a lot of. To be the most competitive player at the receiver position, that's the Steve Smiths. And that's a smaller guy, but in the Hall of Fame, just talking about the all-time competitors. He's like a Steve Smith, but in a bigger body. He doesn't talk as much as him, but he's just like that. It reminds me of him. He's a super competitive person.
Let me ask you, by the way, about Travis Hunter as we have you here, Jason Avant. How do you think he should be used in the NFL?
I think there's only one way to use him. So, like, you think about where he can go. You say he can go to Cleveland, or maybe he goes to the Giants. Both of those, both those teams need different things. But I think that in Cleveland, you have to use him more at receiver, because you got guys on Cleveland receiving core outside of Jerry Jeudy. There's a bunch of nobodies, right? So you can use him more at receiver, and they have a really good secondary in Cleveland. So you can use him in specialty situations. But I think the most value is to utilize him the way he was being utilized in college. He wants to do it. Let him do it until he proves that he can. Let him do it until you. There's a bunch of people saying, you can't do that in NFL. No. Let him try. Let's see how durable he can be. Let's see if he's a game changer. Let's see if he's been the one player in the last 100 years of national football, of the NFL. If he can do that, and if he can't, you put him in one spot or the other. But give him the opportunity to try. But I'm not drafting him number 3. And I'm not using him in both aspects of the game, on offense and defense.
Yeah, I don't know if we've never seen anyone like him to this level. It's amazing to me how people are so stubborn, and just because we've never seen it at this level, why people can't at least even contemplate giving it a chance early on and letting him play both ways. And you have a lot of NFL players that don't think it's possible that he could be successful playing both ways in the league.
It's always going to be doubters, because you've never seen it. And that's how people are in general. They're always going to be more negative beforehand, and then they'll come with their crystal ball afterward. Like, hindsight is 2020. I knew he can do it, and change their whole opinion of it. But the truth is that you have to give the kid an opportunity to see if he can. His body has held up amazingly in college. Let's see if he can do that in NFL. Am I scared for him because of all of the mileage? Do I want him to play into year 13, 14? Am I worried that he only can last 7 years? Yeah, that's a doubt for all of us. But maybe this kid is made of something different and he can do it. So I say give him an opportunity. But you're going to get those doubters and GMs and players and scouts saying whatever they want to say.
On the way out with Jason Avant, you look at Michigan with how the season ended, especially the last 2 games. I think it changes the way that we look back at this season, and there was a lot of optimism heading into this offseason, and they get Bryce Underwood as well. Where do you think the trajectory under Sharon Moore is for this Michigan program now entering year number 2 with them being the head honcho?
Well, I think that they're heading in the right direction. So Michigan was just offensively challenged last year.
Yeah.
And I'm being kind, offensively challenged.
They couldn't throw the football. I'll say it for you.
Couldn't catch it, just couldn't generate offense at all. And actually was still one of the better defenses, and the defense kept them in the entire year. And guess what? The defense is just as good as they were last year. When you look at all the guys they have coming back that have production, Rayshawn Benny, you got TJ Guy, you got a bunch of guys that are coming in and Damon Payne. You got Derek Moore on the back end. You got corners that have had experience in Zeke Berry and Jair Hill, and then you got head busters in Brandon Hillman and Rob Moore that's coming back. So you have a bunch of guys. The linebackers, both starting linebackers are back. So you have a great defense. All you have to be able to do at Michigan this year is probably generate 20, 24 points a game on offense, and you're going to be in the college football playoff. And that's the thing that you have to pitch to your team is, hey, 24, 25 points a game will get us in the college football playoff. Yes, you still have Oregon. Yes, you still have Ohio State there. But yes, 3 or 4 teams can get in from the Big Ten now because or the Big Ten has proven that they're one of the better conferences with the SEC. So Michigan is right in position, and Sharon Moore is getting better players, and a lot of Michigan alumni is pitching a lot of money in for it. Like,
For Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, Bryce Underwood, Larry Edson, Tom Brady, bunch of guys, pitching in. So with that, Michigan can be in position because Michigan historically doesn't like to pay players, but now they're realizing where NIL is going, and now they're on board for it. So Michigan has one of the biggest and broadest alumni base. So if they choose to pay people, they'll be at the top of the Big Ten in the national championship picture all the time.
I know you just talked about the team expectations. What do you think are the individual expectations for Bryce Underwood in year one?
I don't know. I think it's the most unfair position to be in of any player in college football because they're expecting a 17-year-old freshman to do so much.
And the money even amplifies it more now. Let's be real.
The money makes it worse. So there's a learning curve this kid has, and you're hoping that the team can, come together and support him. But I think the expectation to go out there and expect him to be Johnny Manziel is just off. You can't. We need a serviceable quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over, that can throw for 175, 200 yards a game. That's what you need. You need someone to protect the football and be able to make the throws that are there. And I think that if you can put that in Bryce Underwood's head, and that's the expectation, I think it takes away, Michigan being in the national championship and all this pressure just on him. And so I think it's the most unfair position to be in because people have paid him a lot of money. I'm going to take that money at 17 too. So I don't blame him. I'm going to take it. You'll take it too.
Of course. Right? I take it now at 30.
Yeah, right. I don't blame him at all. So, but again, I can't expect him to be the savior of Michigan football. I can't because I know how hard it is to play college football.
JJ McCarthy, last thing I'll ask you, Jason.
No, you're fine. Take as much time you want.
What will JJ McCarthy be in the NFL this year in Minnesota?
He's about to set the league on fire. And this is not, of course, Michigan, bias a little bit. But here's the thing. JJ McCarthy, when you think about it from the outsider perspective, you let go Sam Darnold, and then you didn't see one single Viking player come out in the media and say anything about it at all. Last year, when Justin Fields got traded to the Steelers or got shipped to the Steelers, you heard DJ Moore and multiple people at the Bears complaining about the quarterback. Well, I don't care about Caleb Williams and all this thing. You heard that crying. You haven't heard one player, and especially Justin Jefferson, said, we're going to be just fine because I believe in JJ McCarthy. When you have a guy like that and you have an organization like the Vikings have and with their coach, I think that JJ McCarthy is going to set the world on fire. And I think that they know something that nobody else knows. So that's my take on it.
And I also think that McCarthy can obviously do a little bit more than he was asked to do at Michigan. And
100%.
You throw him in with O'Connell, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Addison, you got Hawkinson. Michigan had a heck of a team, but they didn't have guys that could catch the football like those guys could when JJ was playing at Michigan.
Well, they had guys. They didn't have guys that can uncover as well as those guys can for the Vikings. You're talking about one of the all-time great route runners in NFL history in Justin Jefferson. right? And you're talking about Addison, who can take the top off of defense. Hawkinson, since being at Iowa, can get open. So these guys can create space, and JJ is extremely accurate. That's the thing that people don't give JJ credit for. He threw the ball down the field, and he was accurate, completing 70% of his passes. So you give him space with guys that can get open, he's going to be great in that. He's going to do great.
He's Jason Avant. Jason, always great to catch up with you. Last time I saw you, I think you were doing salsa at an Eagles game, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, so I'm a salsa dancer. I'm almost a pro. I'm getting closer and closer. That's a passion of mine. So
can we see some of the moves before you go?
No, I can't get up and dance here.
You got it. Jason, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.